Okay, hello, good morning. Let's see. Yeah, so we didn't have a session yesterday because I was at the dentist and I had a meeting. But today we're going to continue on our app. First of all, I just wanted to show you something because I've been like super overwhelmed lately. There's so much stuff going on with different open source projects. Like we're constantly doing modifications to our work process in Codesandbox, and I got other stuff in my private life. So, and it's like every time I sit at my computer and I try to focus on something, every time I change windows, I have some window related to something else than what I'm currently working on. And it's a constant reminder, just giving me like bad conscience about stuff I should also be doing. And it makes me like kind of depressed. It's been like really horrible. So I listened to, well, I got inspired by, there's this guy named Lex Friedman. He's like a professor, quite young professor at MIT or something. He's this curious character, but he interviews a lot of like really smart people. But anyways, he's like this insanely focused type of guy, but he doesn't take himself very seriously. So it's a lot of fun to watch that. Anyways, he had this term called deep work. And like I'm not like him at all, but I still got inspired. So what I'm doing now, I tried this yesterday and I'm going to continue through the week, is that I close everything on my computer, absolutely everything. And then I start the day by making a list of what I know I'm going to do that day, or at least going to try to get done that day. And then I start on the first task. I open up what I need to do that specific task. And then when I'm done with that task, I close it down again. And then I move to the next task. I open what I need to do that task and I close it down again. And this just ensures that when I work on something, I don't constantly get interrupted by having bad conscience about, oh, suddenly there's a notification on something that I should have followed up, or I just go past like a VS Code project, for example, Overmind, where I know I should have done something there, or feel bad about not being able to do something. So anyway, so this is an example of like yesterday, there was some private stuff. But then like I fixed an environment thing. I worked on a scoping document. I actually book in time for doing social media. So like checking Twitter, Discord, stuff like that, because that also constantly, like, I'm not answering people on Discord. It makes me feel bad. And then I worked on this support issue. I wasn't able to finish that. And the other stuff I had also booked, I wasn't able to go and do that. But then I also write down what did I actually accomplish that day. So that makes me feel better that I actually did something. And then when I plan my next day, those accomplishments will go into like the stand-up notes. But anyways, then I kind of plan out the day. Yeah, so I'll let you know how that goes. But it has really helped me to keep focused, because I'm like a very empathetic kind of person, so I easily feel bad when I don't follow up on things. Yeah, so what I did this morning, I released a new version of Overmind, because on the next branch, because I gotten lots of feedback on, there's a new approach to doing serializing and parsing of messages between the client and the dev tool. And it was supposed to make things less janky, but it would cause latency, because it took longer to pass the messages along. But it prevented jank, or at least that was the goal of it. And it worked really well for Codesandbox, but other people had like very big payloads that I do expect caused quite a bit of jank in the client and in the dev tools, but at least it was as fast as possible. Like the message was passed to the dev tools as fast as possible. And with this approach, it took like a very long time before the message actually was serialized and parsed on the DevTools, actually displaying in the DevTools. So I'm kind of just dropping the whole thing. It's better to have some jank and the messages going as fast as possible than not having jank, and it takes forever for the messages to get over the wire. Maybe there is a different way to do this, but I don't know how currently. Anyways, so what we did last time regarding the app was fixing this bug. So now we can properly change between, I've updated to the latest Overmind version. So now we can properly do this. Maybe we can even update again so that when we run the DevTools, we can have the latest version of the DevTools with the initial parsing and serializing. Cool. Yes. So what we did last time, what we wanted to do, we wanted to have this derived thing. So let's see if this actually pops up correctly in the DevTools. Let's see, I need my terminal. MPX over my DevTools next. Let's fire that up and see if everything looks okay. So now we can also test the revert I did. Yes, I did test it in but it's good to see that the actual released version also works. Let's see. So what we were going to do, yes, we were going to build this list. Let's see. Does it work? Does it work? Yay! There we have it, and we have our derived backlog list. Woo! So we're back in action. That's awesome. So what we wanted to do, we have these backlog items. Don't we have any items? I thought we had added some items. Oh, maybe we haven't actually set up the thing yet. Or did we? Didn't we go and grab backlog items? Let's see. Let's see. On auth stream. On backlog update, it's empty. Why is it empty? Don't we have any back? Let's see what happens when we add a backlog item. Some item. Oh yeah, that's the center thing and backlog item. Oh, but that's where our backlog list isn't updating. Ah, god damn it. Because I didn't really test that. If our derived actually, because this should have shown a new item now actually, and it doesn't, which is not good. And I wonder why. It might be still a bug here related to our changes, because it's the tracking thing. We have to make sure that it runs in the right context for it to do the proper tracking. So what we can do, we can take a look here. We can look at the state, see what happens. Because if it gives the raw value of the state machine here, if it doesn't give the proxy, then it won't work. And I have a feeling it doesn't give the proxy. Let's see, just to be sure, we have to look. Oops, flame graph. What the? Okay, so it seems to give the raw value here and not the proxy, which is not what we want. Okay, so this this session we're going to dive into this again. I should have checked that, but I didn't. I'm just going to make sure, because we do have this thing where we have this feature where we log proxies true, just to make sure. Because by default we are not oh, okay, wait, it is the proxy. By default we don't log proxies in Overmind, but I can see we are actually receiving the proxy in the derived. So I wonder, why doesn't it update? It should have updated when we updated our backlog. You know, it might be this values thing I'm using actually. Just let me try to do something else, because like this tracking is a little bit tricky related to these native methods, because for it to track correctly it needs to it needs to know that it tries to access everything in that object. So if we do object keys and then we rather map, so what we're doing now, we're grabbing the keys and then we are saying well, just key state.backlog key, and then we are explicitly accessing every object there, and that might actually cause a different behavior. And if it does, we need to fix that, because then values is something that that the proxy state tree needs to deal with. Let's see what happens now. What's happening? Oh, am I losing connection? No. API get vero? Something is moving slow here. What the hell is happening? It seems like there's some latency on some endpoint we're using. What the hell is happening? API get vero? This seems to have some blocking behavior. I'll just make a screenshot out of that, because it seems to cause some bug here. Or it's my internet connection. But I don't think it is. It seems to be... Wow, that was weird. That was super weird. Anyways, okay, so we have our backlog item, but nothing happens to our backlog list. Okay, this is a problem. Why doesn't this work? Let's try something else. So let's return state plus. I just need to know if it's because it's that object or if it's something else. Okay, it's because it's an object. You see here it updates. So for some reason when I access that object, it doesn't run the derived, like the tracking doesn't work on the object. That's really interesting, because that should actually work. How can we do a simple test for this? Okay, let's just try to create this derived on I have the website open here. So we are going to go into state. Okay, so we already have a derived. So let's introduce like a new thing here. So mode unauthenticated. Let's do bar is an object. key string. I guess that's enough. String. And then we have bar. Let's add something. Well, we don't need to add anything, but we are going to say state. We are going to say object values state dot bar. Oh, yeah, sorry. Foo now needs to be a string thing. Isn't it able to understand that it creates an array of... Oh, it doesn't exist. Oh, sorry. I guess we need to do this. And this might be undefined now. Does not... Yeah, authenticating. Let's just add it both places. Sorry about this crazy typing shit. Okay, and so now we have our state there. It's actually running in the back. Oops. Get down here. Localhost 5,000. Yeah, this is how I do debugging. What the fuck, and that's how I do it. Okay, so we are running this login action. Is this a website? So what we're going to do here, we're going to drop that thing. We're going to say state bar foo equals bar. Let's see what happens. Foo equals bar. Yeah, and it's empty. So this should actually have foo in it now, and it doesn't. So we've been able to reproduce, which is great. So what we're going to do now, we're going to drop this transition. So we make it as simple as possible, and then we're going to move into proxy state tree, because this is responsible for detecting changes to objects. So we are going to first we're going to check the flush. So we're going to check what does it say has changed. So let's see if we can do this directly here. So we are flushing. This is what happens at the end of an action. It kind of batches up all the mutations. It creates, yes, here we have console.log changes.mutations. So let's see what kind of mutations has occurred. Here we can see there's a set on bar foo, that's correct. And rx bar, but it's supposed to do, there should be like an object change here. Let's see. Maybe something has happened. Let's see, create object proxy. So when we set object change path, this is the thing I'm looking for. Add mutation. Oops. Where did it go? Proxifier object change path. Here we go. If the property is not in the target, we say that it's an object change path. And then we go to the add mutation of the mutation tree, and then we pass in this additional object change path, which kind of tells or remind that, hey, something has happened to this object. So if you're looking at this object, we have to yeah, if you're looking at this object, there's a change there. So you have to like re-render or whatever. So object change path. Let's just look at that. Console.log. So this should state that our bar object is part of that path. Yeah, you see here, change path bar. But for some reason, the tracking of our derived, I think this is a general issue with objects actually. But I don't remember how we dealt with this object change path. So let's take a look at that. Add mutation, object change path. This object changes add. Okay. So it seems that it creates callback. So it calls mutation callbacks, mutation path, object change path. So it does add it. Why does it add it to the... Yeah, there's something fishy here. Why do we add it to that thing there when we pass it in here nevertheless? Okay, so we have path callbacks to call. Yeah. Let's log this thing out. Let's see if we can see anything there. Okay, so that's empty, and I think that's because we're clearing it down here. So we have to JSON stringify it. Oh, it's empty. Maybe that's something else. It's a long time since I wrote this code. So changes. So we're going through. Okay, so we're going through the trees, and we're getting the mutations. So it seems that okay, so I think this callback thing on mutation, that should actually... Okay, so let's not do the flush here because I forgot the derived. They are notified directly by mutations. So we actually have on mutation here. So the derived actually calls mutation callbacks. How did this work? Where do we call these on mutations? Is that directly from the mutation tree? Oh yeah, oh sorry, yeah, here we actually go through the mutation callbacks. So we are kind of like, whatever is listening directly to mutations, it being on the master tree or this tree specifically, we okay, so I think, okay, let's see, calling 1, calling 2. Okay, so it's calling both of them, and it does with object change path, right? So one of these are the derived, and it gives the object change path. Okay, so let's take a look into the derived now. It seems to actually be inside the derived. I believe. On mutation. Here you can see we are looking at so we're looking at this paths. Okay, so it seems like when we let's look at the paths of the derived. What does it actually track? So it does track bar, and it gets a mutation on bar foo and bar, which is exactly what we expect. So when we go through the paths, it checks if we have, okay, so this is really weird. It says it's dirty. Oh, so it does actually emit that it has changed. I think this is a DevTool issue. Let's see what it does. Emit async derived dirty. This is inside Overmind. If event type, oh, what? Aren't we? Oh, sorry. What do we call initialize DevTools? We have this generic way of listening to events. So blah, blah, blah. So we just go through the event types and then we create a listener there. So what we're going to do, yeah, here we have derived, oh, there we have derived dirty. So we should have a message here. But why are we? Let's dirty data. What the hell are we doing here? Oh, I think access the derived, which will trigger. Yeah, okay, sorry. So what we're doing here, we are basically just accessing the derived. So when you're in development, whenever the derived is dirty, we access it, and that triggers a recalculation, which should send a message to the DevTools about an update. So let's see if it actually does that. So it's dirty, everything's okay this far, but there's no update there when it's an object. It's very interesting. Okay, so what we're doing now, we're at the point where the derived has detected a change, and we're trying to access it, and it is dirty, but for some reason this is really weird. Okay, anyways, so when we access our derived, it notifies the DevTools. Does it do that? How does that work? Oh yeah, I think I remember now. So what happens now with this piece of code that we just looked at here? When we do this, we're basically just accessing the value of the derived, and that triggers evaluate, which means that it should trigger this thing after the previous log statement. It should trigger this thing, and it does, because it re-evaluates blah blah blah, and if it's it runs the scope. Okay, so let's see what it evaluates the value to. Oh, it did update the value. Oh, this is interesting. So it did update the value to our array with bar. And let's look into the DevTools to see if we actually get that message. And I think, oh, don't I have the log here anymore? Oh, sorry, I'm not running, I'm running the production version. Let's see. Oops. Let's run the DevTool client locally here. Come on. Where are you? Where are you? There you are. Okay, so now we're running in dev mode, which means I have this log, which means that we should have a derived with value bar. Okay, excellent. So we are actually getting the message. It's just not displayed here. It's not updating the derived. So it's actually a DevTool issue. Interesting. Okay, so then we can drop looking into this, which is nice. Now we can go into like just normal code. Where is the Overmind DevTools client? So we are receiving a message here. We are receiving this message, execution type derived. And it's supposed to update the derived, but for some reason this does not happen. So why does this not happen? Oh, split. I think this should actually be... Are we using... What's the delimiter I'm using? Okay, I'm going to try something here. Oh, I think I'm supposed to have... Okay, let's look at this message first. Because we went from having... We hard-coded the delimiter to being a dot. But then we changed that. So you could have like a custom delimiter, which allows you to have dots in your key names, in your objects. Derived, and I thought type derived, it doesn't have... Okay, here we have our value. So what is it? If array... Okay, this is the old one. Yeah, sorry, doesn't matter. Okay, actual path... Oh, are we looking at the wrong thing here? We're looking at the paths. We should look at the path. Oh, seriously? Yeah. Seriously, we're not... Oh, sorry, message data.path. Sorry. And then we have the key. So what we're doing here, we are path.reduce app state. Yes. Is it just not... Oh, this is icky. Is it just not updating? Ugh. So our target and our key and our message data.value. Maybe it's a rendering issue. Like that could also be. Ugh. If it's a rendering issue, it's kind of bad. Like it's more difficult to figure out. Okay, so we actually have our state machine there. We're actually setting bar. But, oh wait. But it's not supposed to be on the actual state, is it? Let's look at this app state first before we change. Yeah, I don't remember exactly how this works because we have the state, but then we also have these derived. So that's how it kind of figures out. I don't really think it matters what the actual target, like the state is here. Anyways, app state. Value. Yeah, so it changes. Oh, I think we have to go into it rendering here. Derived. Oh, maybe there's, this might be actually related to the delimiter thing. Because let's look at the derived thing here. I think this, oh, I think that might be the issue. Console.log. Let's see, derived. Wow, my computer is really working. Okay, so we have, so this is the thing, like we have foo, yeah, but I think like if this was a nested thing, we would have it would have been like a yeah, so this doesn't matter. Like it does actually change the message data there, as we can see here as well. It changes the value. God damn it. This is a rendering issue. Ugh. Why doesn't it update? Ugh. Okay, we have to fix this. Like this is, now we're so deep into it. So let's see, we have our state. I think we can actually, so we have our derived wrapper. Let's see. Okay, so we're having our render paths. Oh, maybe this is related to this thing. Okay, so we're going through the derived here, which means that if this derived changes, this thing should re-render, and we should be able to see the actual change. So let's do that. Current app derived. I'm not sure what all these changes are, by the way. Maybe we can find that. Fine changes. Something oh, god damn it. I hate finding log statements. It might be from one of the libraries. We should probably find it. Oh, I guess this is something I... Oh yeah, it's from earlier. Oh, where did that console.log go? Okay, so render. Okay, I'll have to actually, let's see, I have to, where is it? I have to JSON stringify this because the Chrome DevTools actually shows you the latest state of the object. So to ensure that you see the object at the point of logging, you have to stringify it, which is actually quite annoying. Okay, so this is a good thing. It actually does update. So what doesn't work is, what we're doing here, we are rerunning this thing, which means that something needs to have changed here. So we have these render paths, and we are recreating these render paths. And these render paths are like when it evaluates the state tree, like the visual state tree in the DevTools, it goes and checks these render paths. Oh, I think maybe I know what's wrong. To see if the path it's at, is it a derived? And then it wraps it with a derived. Let's see. Okay, so we have our inspector. Let's see, render paths. Okay, so all of this stuff should like re-render again. And then render value. So is object. So we have a nested thing here. So we have an object. So there's no wrapper here, but we should actually be able to go into nested. Okay, so let's log out the rendering of this thing. So log render, and then we'll give it the path. So we can just look at what it renders first. So here it goes, renders bar, renders foo. Okay, so that's the last statement, is rendering the actual foo. And that means that should collapse. So where is this? If should collapse. Where's the null items? Interesting. Keys dot length. Let's see, keys. Oh wait, is it because it's collapsed? Well, it doesn't show here either, so that's weird. But again, value dot value, if it's a class. But what about the? Oh, we seem to override. If it's a, oh, I think this is because we have the derived on a state machine. So the DevTools is looking at this. No, it shouldn't do that. Like the value isn't a class. No, there's something weird here. So we should, okay, so let's see. If we move this log statement now down to the bottom, because we're not, well, we are in should collapse, I guess. So we should be here. Let's see if we are there. Yeah, so it still does render through. That's good. So we are inside here. And then we have to look at, so it finds the keys. Okay, so let's look at the value as well. Because here it should be looking at if it's a derived, which I find a little bit weird. Why does it not look at the derived at all? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, because the length here is okay, I guess. This is weird. But it does trigger the wrapper, which I don't understand. I don't understand this. How can this be? Like, why is the value? It grab. This is weird. So render. Oh wait, sorry. So has wrapper. I find this weird. Nested. Where is it? Nested has wrapper. Do we use that anywhere? Okay, so it's disabled if it has a wrapper, but we never actually use the... We never actually use the thing. I find this quite weird. Why don't we ever use the render path to figure out the actual value? Oh, it's because, okay, I think I know why. Because we are actually... Oh yeah, sorry. I think I know why. Like, I don't know what's wrong, but I think I know why it doesn't deal with that. Because in our operator, we do change the actual target as well. So it means that we're updating the derived and we're updating the actual state value, but this state value isn't updated. So our derived is updated, but for some reason this isn't updated. And I wonder why. So when we do the rendering, okay, so we need to log this again. So we don't look at state there, but we rather look at state here. Well, state current app dot state, because that should also have changed. That should also have changed. Did I call it derive? No, render. Yeah, see here? No, sorry, here it is. Okay, so it has changed. Okay, but this is good. We're getting closer. So foo has actually changed, but when we render foo, it's a proxy of nothing. It's an empty array. And I wonder how that happens. Because when we move, okay, so now we can track it inside the inspector. So let's track. So whenever we go through a value here, render value, let's look at the value. Let's look at the path and let's look at the value. Render bar, render foo. And here it's suddenly empty. Why the hell is it suddenly empty? No, wait, am I? No, wait, I'm not looking at the right thing. Ah, fuck. I think I have doubled my console log. Okay, let's only look at that thing. It should say bar, sorry, foo, and then we should have like an array there. Foo bar? Oh, sorry, foo. Okay, so this is where it says render foo, but here it is an empty array. But when we render foo, where did we render? Here? When we render it here, we actually have the array. So this is happening just outside of the component, which is incredibly weird. So we are outside the component. No, wait, where did that log statement go? Oh, I'm messing up here. Oh, sorry, this seems to be... Is this the same render? Is this the top level render? Oh, render nested. Sorry about that, I'm a little bit confused. Okay, so it is, okay, so when it, yeah, okay. So when we are up here, it looks at the object, it sees that it actually has the foo bar array there. But for some reason, when we pass it down to the nested component, which basically just runs render value again, it's not there anymore. So the value is an array here. Path. So where we are headed is inside this thing. Where it becomes empty, I guess. Ah, this is taking a bit too much time. Yeah, so foo is empty there. So how do we deal with this? So first of all, it's an object. So it runs this nested thing. It runs the nested. It hits. What does it hit? Should collapse. And then it, if it's a class, this is what I don't quite understand. How does this thing work? So we're getting an array there. Okay, so what we can do is render create value, and then we can do one for the nested. Render nested. Yes, this should be helpful. So what's happening here is that we're rendering create value, and then it says it's an object. So it goes to the nested, it goes through the thing, and then it renders bar. But okay, so inside, oh, this is weird. Are we doing some crazy mutation inside of it? So where's nested? Okay, this is nested. So here we have our value. So we're doing something to the value. Object keys, if it's a class, but it's not a class, it's oh wait, here we see it. Oh wait, here we see it, sorry. So it is a class, but when we change the derived, oh, this is it, I found it. So when we do this thing, we're not actually checking if it is a class. That's it. So we just set the value directly on the thing instead of putting it inside. Yeah, so when we reduce to find the target, this is interesting. Okay, so it's related to state machines or any class really. When we go through this thing, we have to make sure that whenever we meet a class, we need to dive into the value and not add it directly to the thing. So basically, let's see. This should be actually as simple as agr and agr. I like to do this. Class. Then we do agr path key dot value. or we just return the path key. So if we are diving through the state tree to find where we should update the value, if it is a class, then we point into the actual value of that class. And if not, we just dive into it as normal. So let's see what that does to our thing. Damn it. Why didn't that help? App state. Oh, actual path. Oh, sorry, it's wait, app state. Console.log path. Point is, this is where it's happening for sure. The question is just, oh wait, the target might be, oh sorry, yeah, this is even more tricky. So this is correct, but this only triggers when we have like nested classes, like state machines. So what we have, like the thing is, the thing we return here is the actual object with the class name. And then we, yeah, so should we just check here as well? So this deals with diving into nested classes, while this thing also needs to take into account that it might be a class. The question is, should we check it here or should we check it here? I think we should check it here. So if the target, I think we should just do it. If target class else, then we point to value. I think. Yes, there we go. So this was a pure DevTool issue. Everything was updating correctly, but because we now allow state machines, like at the root of the state, we allow nested state machines, and yeah, we allow all sorts of crazy stuff now. So the DevTools didn't take that into account. But this was nice. Oh, sorry about that. This was a deep dive into how the DevTools work. I guess we have some more. Let's see. Console log. What other stuff do we do here? Oh, this is the. Let's see. That's the change. Good. We don't. Yeah, we're actually not going to change anything here. So let's just revert that file. So everything we actually going to do is this piece of code. So let's just add that. What is this? Oh yeah, that was something else. Okay. So we have packages, node modules, overmind, DevTools client. Let's just add that. Cool. Happy we got that covered. Figure it out. Bug fix on overmind DevTools client. What's it called? Fixed issue with derived on classes. And it's good to know that it's like, it's not an actual bug inside Overmind. It was a dev tool bug. And this is the thing when you have these dev tools, being at the complexity level of the Overmind dev tools, you often think, like you look in the dev tools, this is like a general thing. When you look into your dev tools, it being a log statement or whatever, you kind of think naturally that is the reality of things. But really that's, well, typically that's the case, but sometimes that's not the reality. So for example, if you get an error message, you have a tendency to think that that error message tells you something about the truth, but it might not do that at all. It might be a really shitty error message, which completely throws you off the trail. And it was kind of the same thing happening here. So the dev tools was saying, this derived is not working. But it was working. It was just the dev tools that didn't display the correct message. So that's quite typical. Okay, but we'll end it here. And tomorrow we'll continue on the actual app. Super happy we got this fixed. And I think I'm going to release a new version of Overmind this evening, so we get the dev tooling fixed. Also the state machine API seems to be where we want it to be. Even got this little thing fixed now. So yeah, I'll do that. And then now I'm going to close all these things because I'm now done with Overmind. Let's close it down. My next thing is to work on Codesandbox. So I'm going to go to Codesandbox test. And then I'm going to quit the stream. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for following along. Again, super happy we got this fixed. And let's get on with our